So I didn't even know these kinds of businesses exist. And that's one of the joys I have running a podcast to find whether it's a lifestyle business or an entrepreneurial endeavor. There's so many ways out there that you can generate revenue so you can live a lifestyle that you truly care about. And that's exactly what my friend Betty Brennan did. Betty has been recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 female founders of a nationally recognized business. She was on the Inc. 500 and the Inc. 5000 for her company called Tailor Studios, which she started some 30 years ago and recently sold. And Tailor, check this out. And, I would never think about this. And this is a good lesson for all of us. When you walk around and you see things in businesses, like who made it? Where did it come from? And Tailor Studios would create things like exhibits for museums, nature centers, and other institutions across the country, and even do the same in outside of the country in places like Iceland. She executed 750 projects in over 32 years, everything ranging from $500 to $3 million a piece. It's an insane business, and that's the beautiful part about it. One of the reasons that I brought Betty on the show, one, because she's an entrepreneur and created an amazing business. And she talked about we talked about the fact that sometimes when you start on an entrepreneurial endeavor, it's a hobby or it's a lifestyle thing. But if you want to grow it and scale it into something, you have to start implementing processes, which she did to get her business to a point where it was acquired by someone else just last year when she hired a mergers and acquisition firm to help her sell the business. What an amazing, amazing story. And the beautiful part of her journey is where she is now, from my perspective. She grew up on a farm, her family were farmers, and now she has her own farm and she's working on regenerative farming. She's been buying land for quite some time, and she contracts the land out to to a farmer who plants things like beans and other commodities to be sold on the market. So she does make money from it, but it's the fact that she has kind of moved from this business venture mindset into a I'm going to plug into planet and life more mindset through running her farm, taking care of her horses. She's even buying sheep now to help with the farming process. I just think it's a very cool story of how one can be an entrepreneur and recognize when the time is right to transition to something totally different. And that's exactly what Betty Brennan did. One side note, I have said this many times before, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I speak with or people who are running side businesses while working a 9 to 5, even if they are generating revenue, one of the key things they always do is buy persistent assets with those revenue, specifically real estate and other stuff. But in this case, Betty did the exact same thing. The whole time that she was running Tailor Studios, she was buying commercial real estate, even an old Walmart she bought so she could house a lot of the exhibits from her that she was building for her clients. She bought industrial property, commercial property, even farmland the entire time she was running her business. And that's what she relies on now. And I think it's a beautiful process. Real estate seems to always be in the portfolio of many of the successful people that I talk to. So I just wanted to call that out. Awesome conversation. She gave me a bit of advice about my entrepreneurial journey, where I want to take it in the next few years as I start to potentially ramp down what I do as an entrepreneur. So just enjoy this conversation. It was kind of a chill one. Betty's just one of those people that when you are around her, even if it's through a screen, you just kind of feel that vibe, like everything's going to be right. And she's just one of those good entrepreneurs. I'm glad I got her on the show. So sit back, relax, listen to this wide-reaching conversation with my new friend, Betty Brennan, the founder and co-creator for Tailor Studios, 30 years, and just sold the business, and now she's running her own farm. I love it. Hope you enjoy this episode of Try Life On. What's happening?
Oh, I got people delivering materials, so hopefully it won't be noisy.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever happens. I'm cool with it. How are you?
Okay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you intrigue me in a
Oh,
big
good.
in a big way. And I can't remember exactly how I ran into you on LinkedIn. I don't know if you commented on something I did or I commented on something you did, but you strike me very much as someone. So I know your whole backstory. That's why I wanted to get you on the show, and I'll explain the premise of the show. But you strike me very, very much as this amazing woman who's gone through this entrepreneurial journey, like full life cycle of creation, creativity, business, now wanting to plug into life in a different way. And I'm just generally on the same path. And I think I'm a few years behind you, kind of maybe exiting. I don't know if I'm going to exit my businesses per se, but I can feel my mental wherewithal going a different direction. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's why I wanted you to come. So I really truly truly appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So just since I haven't even given you the dialogue, I'll just give it to you. So Try Life On is a concept I started maybe 2 years ago now, and it just kind of pulled the principles and frameworks out of my life that allowed me to have multiple careers at the same time, become a solopreneur at the same time, be an entrepreneur at the same time while I was doing all this stuff, because I have this fundamental belief that we can try life on whenever we want to. We were
Hmm.
kind of thrown into this 20 years of formal education, which tells you what to be, where to go, what to do. And there's so many people out there who are trying to do some of the things that you and I have done, but are
Hmm.
looking for an excuse, a framework, motivation, someone looks like them, someone that looks absolutely nothing like them, or what have you. And then I found out the story of Tailor Studios and how you started it, which I didn't even know that kind of business existed. But I
Yeah.
thought it would be a great thing for you to kind of share that story, and then I'll kind of lead us into the conversation of the entrepreneurial journey, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure. So you
yeah,
want a little history of Tailor Studios and
yeah.
yeah.
Please, if you would.
Sure. Yeah. So I even in college I was entrepreneurial, and it's interesting back in the Pleistocene when I was in college.
Mm.
um they didn't really teach small business. So I
No.
was taking like SBA classes at night while I'm studying, and I rode horses for a guy that was an entrepreneur. So
Mm,
he was an inspiration and encouraged me to be entrepreneurial. So while in college, I started the business with my ex-husband. So he was the artist, I was the business person. He
mm-hmm.
started working for a taxidermist that got a job to make trees for a nature center. And so yeah, just
Make
kind of out of the
make trees, make uh
like resin, like fake trees, like
okay.
yeah. And so you
Cool.
go mold the real thing and then you cast a tree from the real thing kind of
Nice.
thing. And you teach natural history and so forth.
Yeah.
And so we realized that there was a whole world out there of companies making exhibits, natural history and history exhibits as a job. Like, holy
Mm,
cow, that's a
mhm.
great career. And so we were both outdoorsy and loved nature, and we were into archaeology and paleontology. So I went on to grad school. He went to work for a competitor of ours just for a
Mhm.
couple years. I started my first business writing interactive computer programs for museums, but that wasn't paying the bills. Both of us paid our own way through college just
Right.
by, working three jobs and, taking out loans. And, it was a humble start.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I always found a way to have a horse. Like I had found the entrepreneur that eventually gave me a place to live, and not only my horse because I ran out of money.
Yeah.
And the next landlord, I would barter with and find a way to have a horse. So, where there's a will, there's a way, kind of thing. So I had that passion too.
Yeah.
Um, so we started an artifact and fossil reproduction business. Eventually, we combined our skills and started Tailor Studios. In the early days, I had a couple what I call real jobs just to pay the bills.
Everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
so
did you do that right out of the concept of art like that? Was that something that you did right out of school, or did you go
yeah,
right out of school, right out of college?
Yeah, I started the first business, which was interactive computer programs for museums, while I was finishing up my MBA.
While you were doing your MBA. Gotcha.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
then, the first real job, we decided that one of us needed to make an income, and then we,
No doubt.
to pay the bills. And
We
so
need
the
it.
first real job was like right after grad school. And then he quit at Chase Studio, which was similar to us. And I just worked nights. That first job lasted 6 months. I got let go. So I got fired of the
Well,
first job. They moved their corporate office kind of thing. And so then tried to make a go of it, but still needed to pay the bills. So got one other real job for like another 6 months until we got our first really big gig that allowed us to,
to start the
we,
company.
yeah, to start the company. And we
So
bootstrapped it.
you did bootstrap. So what exactly is, I know you've sold the business now, and I know it was operating for 30 years, which, by the way, congratulations. Like, that's not a small run by any means. That's 3 decades of an enormously hard work. So congratulations.
Thank
But
you.
what exactly is slash was Tailor Studios, and what were your clients? How did you even find them? And it sounds like the business just kind of grew organically, but give us a sense of what Tailor Studios was or is actually.
Sure. Yeah. So we plan, design, and build exhibits for museums, nature centers, corporations, universities. So in the 30 plus years that I was there, we had done over 700 projects in 45 states and 4 countries.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so clients like Gettysburg National Park, or we did a lot of state parks, a lot of jobs in Arkansas, for instance.
Mhm.
We've done work at Adler Planetarium in Chicago. We've done work at the Smithsonian. So it's those exhibits that walk into a museum and look at it, but you never sort of think about somebody's got to make that.
I know, like, there's so much niche business out there. You would never even think that it's a viable business, but someone has to do it.
Right.
That's a
Yeah,
that's
very creative. So a lot of artists on staff. I had metal workers, woodworkers, sculptors, painters, designers, and then the usual
bro.
business, accounting, project management. So kind of a diverse staff,
Yeah.
very creative, artistic. So yeah, that's the
The genesis of. And did you guys have formal offices, or did you just go where the client was and create from there?
No, we had formal offices. So, a little bit like you, some of my success is the commercial real estate. I
Yeah.
had Brennan Commercial Properties, which, then Taylor
Oh,
Studios rented,
from
paid
Brennan.
me rent. Yeah. So my first building was a 12,000 square foot building, and that was bought that in 1998. The first place, we started in the garage, renovated chicken coop, the loft of the horse barn. My landlord built us our first steel building, and then as we grew, we needed more space. And
Yeah.
to back up a little bit, I told Joe, that's my ex, and I bought him out in 2004-ish,
Hmm.
after the divorce. So we stayed working together, and he's still a great friend. I told him, though, back in college that I wanted to make the Inc. 500 someday. And literally, I was probably 19, 20 years old when I told him this. And 10 years later, we made it.
You made the Inc. 500.
Yeah. And then after that, we made the Inc. 5000 a couple times. And
Holy smoke. There's a power. I'm not there yet, but I got this story from, you remember Jim Carrey, the comedian?
yeah.
He Jim Carrey carried around with him a $10 million check in his wallet, and he said one day I'm gonna cash it. And when he did the first Pet Detective, he got paid $10 million, so he cashed the check to himself. That kind of thing.
Awesome.
So it's
Wow.
funny that you
Yeah.
said you were gonna make the Inc. 500, and you made it, probably because it was subconsciously part of who you were. Did you have like growth targets for the business? Did you want it to be this massive entity, or was it more lifestyle related, or how did you look at it?
Yeah, no, I did want to grow it. It's interesting. That's a little bit why I ended up buying Joe out. It became
Yeah.
bigger than mom and pop, and I wanted to build a business. So I built process and procedure, everything that you need to grow a business. I didn't achieve the goal that I had set as far
Mm.
as the revenue and income. I think, after 20 years or so, I found different ways to live my lifestyle. So I built
Yeah.
the leadership team, which let me slow down a little bit, but not much, and I kept building the farm on the side, buying farmland.
Yeah, the farm stuff too. Yeah.
And we had, by the way, so we had the 12,000 square foot building. I had built 2 steel buildings and then bought another commercial building, and I still was running out of space. So in 2007, I bought an old Walmart building. And so we had a 74,000 square foot production facility. We called it Tailor Mart, and I end up renting out the other ones and sold another one. So, there is that whole commercial property side of it too.
Yep. I find that so I'm in the real estate business. We're similar, but we're a little bit different in that I did go the standard 9 to 5 route, but I was always doing something related to real estate, like funneling my 9 to 5 income into real estate one way or the other. But the more successful people I've talked to, and when I say successful, I don't necessarily mean money. It might be something that makes them generally happy or something like that. The more folks seem to take revenue from whatever it is that they're doing and throw it into real estate or some other persistent asset that kind of exists in the background. Did your family have that money blueprint per se for you to understand it was a good idea to invest in real estate, or was that just you, or was it homegrown?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm, so I'm a farm kid. So they certainly invested in farmland and, very frugal, taught me to save, got me the checkbook in high school and, made me pay for my own class ring and, got my first job off the farm at age 14. So
Oh, you had this DNA to you. It was hardworking
taught me
DNA.
how to work hard for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, they certainly didn't know commercial real estate like you and I do, but buying farmland was part of their, focus. And,
Yeah.
you can talk business at the dinner table, where I think sometimes money talk at the dinner table is nobody does that, but it wasn't unusual for us to talk farm business at the dinner table. So it was okay, and so I
Yep.
think that was good.
Yep. And so my family's a Haitian immigrant family. All my parents knew was education and getting a good job and saving. So when I came back to them in my early 20s and said I was investing in real estate, it really kind of threw a loop in the family. And they were like, that's not smart and what have you. Now they're very supportive, of
Oh, did
course.
they
Now
think it was
nowadays.
too risky?
They just didn't understand it. And I think that's a reality, right? There's always some generation in the family that's a bit of a generation breaker and takes the family a different direction. And that happened to be me. I'm curious for Tailor Studios and the style of work that you were doing relative to art. That's a deviation from farming.
Oh, yeah.
But right, people struggle with this type of thing where they have a great idea. It's away from the typical family dynamic. What was that a struggle within your family, or was your family supportive of the idea, and did they even understand it? Which it took me a second to understand what you did as well.
Yeah, I think they were supportive, in the early days. I mean, it was really humble. We had this little mail order division where we sold these artifact reproductions, and we'd be in the back of the pickup truck selling our wares. And they would help, they'd come and, cheer us on.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they understood it from a, business sense, but I think they cheered me on. It was interesting. They're extremely frugal. And there was a point where my mom said, you should hire someone to clean your house so that you can focus on your business, because your
Yeah.
time is better spent at your business. And that kind of blew me away, because
Smart.
hire someone to clean my house, and when coming from this frugal woman,
Yep.
was kind of, so she understood, like, my hours were better spent building the business than cleaning my own house.
I love it. I love it. So are you still, so I know that well, maybe you can speak on this. So you did it for 30 years. And the thing that caught my attention when I was doing a little bit of research, but I think these numbers were from 2022, and I don't know exactly when you sold, but you guys had done work in 45 states and 4 different countries. Just real quick, how do you even get that expansive, that your work ends up in different countries? Did those clients or customers find you? Was it US based companies that had other offices in other countries. I'm fascinated by international stuff just because I'm developing overseas myself. I think that's a great way to try life on a little bit different, right? And
Yeah.
feel something different. How do you get to 4 other countries for your work?
I think in most of the incidences where we had to bid our projects.
Oh, bidding. Okay.
We find our work by going to trade shows. We had this RFP lead system that told us when projects were happening. We certainly built our reputation within the industry, so people knew us and referred to us. But you had to bid and propose most of the work. A lot of my travel was going and presenting to win the job.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so the one of the most recent international projects was in Iceland, and we were a subcontractor under another firm for that one.
Gotcha.
So because we did the real creative, artistic, sculptural work, that was a little bit more rare in our industry.
Yep.
A lot of the companies would do the casework or the graphic panels, but they couldn't sculpt a woolly mammoth like we could. So for like Iceland, we sculpted a huge rock wall with the native birds covering this huge, so it was a big sculptural piece.
Yeah.
Was pretty cool though. I got to, we went to the grand opening and the client was just awesome. And he found me, I'm, a horse person and I've ridden on several continents. He found me a horse ride when I went that day to go ride their horses, which are rare and unique. So it was pretty cool. So it added to my lifestyle too,
Yeah.
to be able to travel for the business.
And I think that's the holy grail.
Yeah.
When I'm all cool for business making money, and I want to make money, but I want money to be a consequence of doing something that I actually enjoy and it being part of my lifestyle. Sounds like you kind of had the same thing.
Yeah.
But I do tell people, and you said two words one particular word that resonated with me. You said the word process. And let me frame it. So I worked 25 years for Accenture. It's an IT management consulting firm, but obviously we did a lot of process reengineering, process improvement, things of that nature. I think when entrepreneurs or anyone who just wants to start something, solo business, entrepreneurial endeavor comes in, it's a hobby at first. And sometimes that hobby starts to make a lot of money, but it's not necessarily a business until you start investing in tech or processes or policies or whatever it is. I think it was in 2004 you bought Joe out, but however it is you want it to scale, can you just touch on the importance of recognizing, installing, and working on processes makes a true difference in how a business can grow?
Yeah, I don't think you can grow successfully without it, especially if you have staff. It may be even without staff, you need processes to scale. And so, in the beginning, it's as simple as, minutes to meetings and agendas and using just normal business practices. And then you do job descriptions, and then you have a process for how you interview. And then, we had a visual workplace. So we built, processes on the shop floor where we had these boards that had all the project information on it, schedules and, the number of hours to put in and the drawings and, due dates. And we tracked people's hours from the beginning because we bid projects. So we needed that data to bid the next one, so how many hours does it take to build a woolly mammoth? Well, we know because we built something similar. And so I think and then the financial processes and making sure you're following GAAP procedures in your accounting. Right. And I don't know how I could have grown that company without that.
And I have to admit, like I started real estate as a 20-something, as an early 20-somethings, but I was just buying property. I was investing. I wasn't running a business. But when I started my syndication firm with partners, you quickly start to realize, oh man, I think we have 700 investors now or something. So we have customers. We have to service them. They need a portal. They need a process by which they can get information. They need tax documents. There is a robust difference between executing on your hobby and then building something that's there, that's robust, that is persistent, that's going to last, and that's going to service your customers. I caught that. I was listening to two of your podcasts and reading some information on you. I caught that you said that every time that you started to work on processes for the business to grow it. And I just wanted to call that out because a lot of the people who listen to this particular show, yeah, they want to do entrepreneurial things, but there's something very different when it comes to a hobby or a lifestyle business versus what you did, which was scale a company, which gave you the ability to exit, which is incredible. So I'm curious about the exit because that's where I am in life at the moment. I'm probably in the next 5, 6, 7 years, I see myself pivoting in some kind of way. How did you exit? How did you find someone to potentially buy it? And like, what's the status of what you're doing now on your entrepreneurial evolution?
Originally, I hired a consultant that I thought I would sell to some of my leadership team. So he, I always had contingency plans throughout life and how I might do this. So that was try
Yeah.
one. So for 3 years, he taught them what it means to be an owner, but ultimately they didn't want to take the risk and buy the company. So I had to go to plan B. So I did hire an M&A firm. It's called Generational Equity, and they, helped me put together a packet and put it out there on the market. I was pretty particular. I wanted someone that would keep my staff because I had employees that worked for me for over 20 years on staff.
Oh, really? They were family by that point.
Yeah, so I didn't want someone that would just flip it or fire everybody or, that kind of thing. I wanted to take care of this staff. So
Hmm.
so I found that in the first guy that made an offer, and he said, he'd keep the staff. That was his goal, and he wasn't about, flipping it in 2 years. And so then so basically, yeah, Generational Equity helped me find the buyer, and I sold it to him, and then I worked for a year for him with him. So I sold that in we closed in December of 21, and I exited last October-ish. So it's been just a little
October
over
22.
22. Yeah.
It's been about a year.
Been about a year. Yeah. It just feels like, my whole life has been Tailor Studios. So
Yeah.
this is a unique year, and I loved the business, what we
Yep.
did, and it was purposeful, and it was my baby. And, maybe in the early years, I thought I'd be there until I was 80 and they'd just feed me lunch or something. But, my goals changed over time, and this was the path I wanted to
And
take, try
and
something.
that's okay. Goals can change.
Yeah.
But I think I venture to say that your identity probably is shifting a little bit as well since you were so involved in Tailor Studios. Has I'm To be blunt, I because I retired from all three of my careers in the last 3 to 4 years. So
Wow. So you've
I
had a
was
lot of change too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been tough. I was in the military for 22 years and I retired as a lieutenant colonel and federal agent. That was in October of 19. But I was also a police
Oh, not your
officer.
tribe.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a tough one for me, even to go back on military bases. I just went to a military funeral and I tried to put my uniform on and I couldn't do it.
Uh,
I couldn't put it back on. It's not that it's painful or anything. It's just like so many memories. They just flood back to you and it's tough. But so I retired from the military in October of 19, retired from being a midnight police officer in DC in September of 21, and then retired from that consulting firm that I stayed at for 25 years in October of 21. I found myself 4 months after not knowing what I was anymore. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
you don't see it coming. It's a little bit, and even though I still have the real estate and I'm doing some other things, it was just such a part of me for so long. It was tough. So I'm curious after, I mean, Taylor was I assume your baby. Like you grew it from being an infant, a newborn and an infant to what it's become, enough value that somebody would want to buy it from you. What's the transition been like in a year since you've left?
Yeah, honestly, surprisingly, it's been surprisingly smooth. And I think it's because of that
Oh,
3 years of, thinking I might sell, and then it happened fairly quickly. So, I think I had it in my head for a long, long time that this was going to happen.
but it was coming.
4 years, 5 years, or something like that. Because yeah, it's totally my identity. And I'm in a small community, Champaign-Urbana, Central
Yep.
Illinois. So
Yep.
I'm known, locally. I've just been awarded Entrepreneur of the Year award from the local community college.
Wow,
You
congrats.
know, yeah, so that's still there, but that was my identity, right? And I
Yeah.
quietly kind of felt like I've just quietly went to the farm and I'm not that person anymore. But I had always had that farm in the background, and I didn't
It
know
was
what
there.
life was going to bring because I'm just letting it kind of let me find where the joy is and what I want to do. And, I
Yeah.
don't know that I've 100% picked that, but when I left, I was writing a book, and I wrote the first shitty draft, and I got halfway through the second edit and, was starting to write, but I realized I didn't want to sit behind a desk anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
so I decided to put that on the back burner, and I'm moving in, the different direction. I'm going to get some sheep. I'm going at farmer. A lot of it is to keep moving,
Yeah, of
that makes me
course.
work. I'm getting rid of honeysuckle out in the woods, and it's a physical lifestyle. I'll write the book in the fourth quarter when I can't move anymore.
When you got some time. Yeah, I know, I get that. And so we did something similar in that you I know that you have been creating your farm in the back. I think which is what attracted me to you. I'm like, oh man, I think I'm headed that route in some way, and I'll tell you why and where. Um, but when I knew I was gonna leave, I got the same feeling you had. Like, no, the change is coming in summer of 20. I just knew it, and
Uh-huh.
the good thing I had done was I started building Quattro Capital, that investment firm in the background. And then on the side, I started developing real estate in Cyprus, which is an island in the Mediterranean, east of Greece. Excuse
Nice.
me, yes, east of Greece. And when I retired, I had something to transition into. I didn't have to build something from scratch the day that I retired. And I think in reflection, it softened, even though I struggled a bit, it softened everything.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like you used that approach. How well was the farm built out? Was that your thought process for it? Was like, let me have this thing ready so when I need to transition to it, it's here. Or what's just been the move from Tailor to the farm, if you will?
No, it wasn't really the thought process. I was just investing in farmland. It's more fun than stocks because you can, ride your horse on it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I've learned in this year, I've started studying farming a little bit more. I have a contract farmer that plants the corn and beans. So I'm not physically sort of running the income side of the farm. It's
Oh,
kind of contracted out.
yeah.
Um, and now I'm learning about regenerative farming and how we can do better by the soil and the environment and the land. And, I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I'm visiting farmers and maybe I can do this myself. And the first step is the sheep because they're actually good for the soil and regenerating the grasslands. And, you do this rotational grazing thing. So basically I'm in, farmer university right now and learning
You'll
like
be
how
learning
can
as you go. You
yeah
That's kind of
yeah
a principle that I subscribe and tell people, just do it and course correct along the way. Learn as you go. You're getting another NBA, but this time in the real world, just kind of executing
yeah
on it. Yeah.
yeah and
Um,
it's intimidating even after running a business for this long. What if the
yeah.
sheep die? What if I don't, I still want to earn the income, have the income stream, so sometimes with the regenerative you don't make as much money in the first few years until you build up the soil. And yeah, so it's a lot, it's a lot to learn, a whole
Wow.
new genre of business for me.
Yep.
um, but it's interesting, I looked on my bookshelf and probably a decade ago I had bought a book that says you can farm, so it was kind of
It
in
was
there.
there. It was
It was
there.
there. I didn't voice it. I'm a very much a goal setter. I've always, I'm going to make the Inc. 500. I'm going to build the barn in the indoor arena. I'm going, I always set those goals. That wasn't necessarily in there, but I mean, it wasn't specific.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but
obviously
there
it
was a
was in the
seed of
back
it.
of my head. Yeah. The
There was a
seed.
seed of it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I was so attracted to you as a person, I am finding now in my 27th year of being an adult or professional, whatever you want to call it, it yes, I want to make money. It's natural. but I'm
Uh-huh.
finding myself wanting to do things more connected to the world, more connected to people, more connected to the planet itself. So when I did start developing land in Cyprus, really I'm doing like you. Like my partner is from there. He lives there. He grew up there. So it's like real world MBA kind of thing. I'm watching what he's doing and he's teaching me. Um, like how can I, yes, develop for the sake of making money, but do it sustainably and then create something for my family. I don't know if it's going to be a farm or a preserve or something, but something that actually gives back at the same time that I'm building business. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's just kind of the sense I got of you was like you built Tailor to what it is. It's doing good things in the world, and now you want to take the time to be even more connected to the world that has given to you. I feel like there's this natural progression there that I'm seeing even in my peers, but I don't know if it's just me seeing it because I care about it or it's just this true thing, but that's what I saw happening with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting because it is a completely somewhat different mindset than Taylor Studios, because that was
Yeah.
very much efficient productivity, profitability. Now it's like, how do I live this lifestyle that's enjoyable, also do good by the land and also make money, but not to the degree, like, I mean, I was so efficient in as a president of that company, to the, how quick I put gas in my car to how I ran the business. Now it's nice to kind of slow down and but hard. That's been a hard transition for
That's
me
tough. Yeah.
to slow down and just um see what happens is a new approach for me. So that's been a bit of a psychological struggle. I'm so, for 30 years used to being efficient, productive, profitable. This is a new way to look at it.
Yeah,
So
you actually got to slow down and enjoy. I think you were enjoying yourself before, but now actually do it in a slower manner.
yeah, and
That's
not be
that's
so
tough.
concerned about it. Maybe eventually, we'll see where this farm goes, but it's nice to just slow, cleaning stalls and getting honeysuckle out of the woods doesn't pay as well as being the president of a company.
But it sounds cool though. It sounds
Yeah. But I
um
could do it because so I, that whole life of saving and being
yeah.
frugal and putting away and building the business allows me to now slow down and do this.
And Betty, I write newsletters on my website, Try Life On. And one of them I travel a lot overseas and I happen to be in Beirut, Lebanon for the summer. I lived there 2 months this summer. And I wrote this newsletter or just a blog, and I said, "Oh, I am struggling with idleness." I didn't realize it because I was waking up. Maybe I had one or two meetings on my calendar relative to real estate, but not a ton because our business processes and things are taking care of stuff, and
Good job.
which is good, but you find yourself a victim of your own success in a way,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there. So I've had to learn how to appreciate sitting. I don't want to say doing nothing because that's not what I do. Like this morning, and I cleared my whole calendar. You're my only meeting this morning, purposefully, intentionally, because my 23-year-old is up from Atlanta, and I live with my 10-year-old. So we all had Thanksgiving together, and I just don't want anything around me because I want to be idle because they are here and to be intentional with that. But I
Hmm.
but I have found that like when you create something like a Tailor Studios and you've put yourself in this position, like everything all of a sudden slows down. And we were so busy before creating, and now
Yeah.
we have to kind of create in a different way.
Yeah, it is a hard transition. I had 6 or 7 meetings a day at
Yeah,
Taylor Studios, and
yeah,
now I have one, and I'm like, whoa, I got this meeting. It's such a weird thing. It is hard.
yeah.
Hard and good, I suppose, to learn to sit and be okay. I think one of the things that helped me run that company though is I always had the horses, so
You always had the
had
horses.
nature and the outdoors, and you can't really think about how to run a business when you got to stay on the back of a horse. So that maybe brought
Yeah.
balance to my life,
Yep.
that was needed. So I've always had, some of that, nature kind of
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah, but
it matters, especially in this technology world we live in, and we need it. It's kind of how
mhm.
we stay connected, but it can also disconnect us from things that are important as well, like being outside, being in nature. Someone taught me grounding. So now it may sound weird, but first thing in the morning, I always grab my coffee, I go out in my yard and I walk around barefoot. And it's been one of the coolest things because there's this weird energy that kind of occurs with like, oh, I'm out here connecting with Mother Nature. I think it's a good thing because we always have shoes on.
Yeah,
We never
yeah.
touch anything.
I have a grounding mat on my bed.
You do.
I do. Yeah, I have actually a local farmer lady that gives me massages, taught me about it, and as a kid I ran around barefoot all the time, but I
Yeah.
don't now.
You
And so
know,
have you felt it's made a difference?
so much so that so I was always a 4 a.m. guy because I'm always going to the gym anyway.
Uh-huh.
But so today's a prime example. My alarm went off at 3:40. I kind of snoozed till 4:10. And from 4:15 after coffee was made until 4:30, I was walking around in the backyard barefoot. And then I went to the gym.
Where are you at? Isn't it cold out?
It's cold. It was freezing today, which is why I'm going to move to the Mediterranean permanently. But it's cold. But it's just part of my, if snow's on the ground, I'm probably not going to do it. But it's just part of the routine now to like not get so consumed on my laptop or on my phone, or I don't want to start the day that way. I know we live that way, and I'm cool with it. That's how I do business and talk with people. But there's this aspect of life, again, why I was drawn to you. There's this aspect of life that has to deal with outside and nature and connecting to planet that I think is missed a lot.
Yes.
And I'm starting to see it on people's entrepreneurial arcs or journeys. This I start from infancy as I was a kid where I used to play outside. I learned a few things. Now I'm going to build this business. Now I want to go back to being a kid and having fun outside again. It's this thing that's happening to people, and whether it's real or not, it's happening to me, and I'm recognizing it. So I love the fact that you've kind of shifted your attention to building your farm, whether it's going to be regenerative farming or something else, that you've given attention to that. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think I have a theory that some of the emotional struggles and mental health issues that people are
Yeah,
having is that lack of out. I mean, we're supposed to be outside,
I
and
believe it.
I read some statistics. I think people like 90% of their lives are inside. Well, we're not meant to do that. And I think with the horses, I always start my day with walking to the barn and feeding them. And before I lived on the farm, I rode my bike to the barn and fed them. So I always started my day with the outdoors and taking care of the horses. So
I
I
love
think
that.
that brought some balance to my life. Meant I had to get up, not as early as you, but really early.
That's military routines for sure. And
Yeah.
I just as we wrap up, I vision a lot, but I vision through writing my perfect day, whatever I want it to be. And because I am doing some real estate development in Cyprus, I'm building myself a home, or I'm keeping one of the homes. It's modest. It's not a big fancy thing. It's just 3 bedroom and probably like 2,000 square feet or something. But it's on the side of a mountain.
Nice.
The backyard is a government protected land reserve on a mountain.
Perfect. Perfect. You
So I'm
got
gonna
that.
plant. I'll be there when the ground gets a little bit warmer, but I'm gonna plant olive trees and fig trees, and then the front is this view to the Mediterranean.
Wow.
And I did it purposefully because, and the funny thing is, with all the real estate I've ever done, I have never bought a home for myself ever.
Wow.
Ever.
Oh,
No, because I believed more in renting. I never really thought about creating home space that felt what I anticipate your farm feels like, or how you feel with the horses or whatever. So I'm building that for myself now.
nice.
It's just this art. So I wanted to bring you on because I want people to understand, like, hustle, do good, create value, get paid for it, but also please take the time to plug into the planet, because we've got this one journey to exist. And I don't think all of it just needs to be grind, grind, grind all the time. I do think there is this slowdown period that occurs. And for some, it might be later, for some, it might be earlier. I sense mine coming on. but you have certainly had this amazing 30-year journey with Tailor Studios. I also like calling out businesses that no one would ever think about. Didn't know that kind of thing exists. So the question I ask everybody kind of towards the end of the show is, folks who listen are trying to do something. They want to leave corporate and start a business. They want to leave entrepreneurialism and go back to 9 to 5 where it's more stable. They want to be who knows? Maybe they want to be an actor. I don't know. They're trying to try life on in some way, and they get motivation and inspiration from folks like you. What would be just one thing you would suggest to someone who wants to try life on their way?
Yeah, I think one of the keys to my success is I did have a long-term vision. You know, hey, I'm going to make thing 500 someday. I'm going to build that horse barn someday. Or, you know, so what you can do in 20 years is incredible. And I think a lot of people just think about next week or next year. And so it's that whole compounding interest thing. You know, it takes sometimes to achieve it, it takes a long time, not to the degree to make you anxious about the future, but to think about what you could do in 20 years instead of just next week or a year. So have a long-term vision, and it can change, like we said, but to have this destination of what you want your life to look like in 20 years. I'm not sure that people think about that enough. And
I'm sure they don't think about it because we live in this very instant Uber society now where everybody wants to get everything so quickly. But I love that. I love that. Yeah, to have a vision. Well, you certainly had your vision. I think it's amazing what you've done. I'm even more kind of enthralled. I hope you continue to develop the farm website because I'm kind of watching.
Okay, but, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. But I want to thank you for swinging by because we need more examples like you of people who've just kind of taken life by the horns and are doing it your way and trying life on. So thank you. It's much appreciated.
Thanks for having me, and you inspire me also. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey guys, this is Maurice, host of the Try Life On podcast, and thank you for listening to another episode. I hope you are finding it useful in helping you design your own lifestyle that you don't need a vacation from. If that's the case, please consider dropping a review for me, whether in Apple, iTunes, or in Spotify. Drop a review, put some stars on it, give me some feedback on how I can make the podcast better, what information you are looking for. I am doing my best to get information to you on the Try Life On principles, the 5 freedoms, how to build lifestyle, travel hacking, all of it. And I want to do it for you. So please do a review for me. And until next time, my name is Maurice Philogene, and this is the Try Life On podcast. Peace.